I've got a $5 machete and a World War II machete. And today we're going to find out if they hold up in the woods. Welcome to the Mike and Davey channel. I have a beautiful GI issued World War II machete and a $5 big box store machete that I saved from the trash. I restored them, so I'm going to show you how I did that, and then we're going to take them to the woods. So a little rundown of the plan. This handle is actually really fine. So I'm going to leave it on and just work mainly on the blade, because this blade has a lot of damage from me just using it for crappy stuff like cutting roots while they're still in the dirt and chopping at rocks and stuff. This one, unfortunately, even though it's more historical, has a broken plastic piece. I want to see if I can reuse the, I think they're like snap rivets or something, but I want to see if I can reuse those because they have the historical value. We'll just have to see. Less blade work, but I definitely need to clean it up. On both of these, I don't want to mirror finish because I don't really want to be signaling people while I'm out trying to do stuff in the woods. Let's take this handle off and try to save these for now, and then we'll go inside and clean both of these up. So in case you're wondering how bad this is, it's catching the edges of the steel wool and tearing it apart because there's so many bad nicks in this blade, and it's so dull. I'm grabbing it with my hand to wash it, both of these, because they're so dull and just messed up on the edges. There's nothing to cut me. Maybe a little bit down here, but it's still just not. I can run my finger along that all day and it's not cutting me. So I'm deciding to go with steel wool on this one too because it seemed to smooth it out a lot more. It feels pretty rough when you're feeling it on the sides, and I think a lot of that has to do with the rust, which I know I'm not going to take all of off because I just like the aged look, and if I keep it maintained, it's not going to break down really easily. And the steel wool is just not doing hardly anything to it other than smoothing the side of the blade out a little bit, and taking off that kind of outer layer of rust. Okay, so the machetes are now clean. This is the $5 machete. This is the GI machete. They look pretty nice. There's the handle off on that one. And I did look this up. It says Martin, made in Belgium, and that is consistent along with the black handle and brass rivets that this had. And with those uh, contributing descriptive factors, I would guess that this is, based on my research, it's a 1944 to 1946 emergency post-war machete. That's what I found looking stuff up anyway, so it's a really cool piece of history that I get to restore and have. This one is definitely a lot less flexible and a little bit heavier. This one's really, really flexible and a little bit lighter, a lot more front heavy, which we'll just have to see how they work. I'll probably use this one sparingly because of the historical value, but we'll just have to see how that goes. But we need to get a handle profile on wood and cut it out, and then we can attach it. Most videos I've seen, people restore the blade first and then do the handle, but seeing as how dull these are, I'm going to do the handle first on this one and then get to work on this blade, and then I'll sharpen them both and oil them, and then we can get to the test. What I did was I took a circular saw and I just cut this down the center most of the way through. So then I'm going to trace the handle on here like that, and then I can cut that out with the jigsaw roughly. Okay, so now I need to mark these holes right here, all 5 of them on each side of the plates, and then I can epoxy it up with some Gorilla Glue clear epoxy and let it set. I'm going to use some 80 grit sandpaper to sand the tang here so that the epoxy can grip to it a lot better.
So because of it being oak hardwood, it took longer than I thought, but after all the sanding, it looks and feels pretty good. So after all the sanding and some touch up that I did off camera, it looks and feels really good. I'm happy with where it's at. Now it's time to put the rivets in. So I drilled all the holes for the rivets, and I've got the 2 drill bits here. I've got the 1 drill bit that is a little bit larger than the shaft of the rivet of the female end, which is the bigger end. And then I've got a drill bit that's just slightly bigger than the head so that I can countersink that in so that everything will be flush with the rest of the handle.
This is an absolute mess, but I just wanted to explain what happened here before I clean up. I didn't get these holes drilled deep enough for the head of the rivets to seat flat, so they were essentially going to be sticking up higher than the wood, which would have been bad. And since these are already glued on, if I didn't do it right, I would have had to mess up the piece by trying to pry these off and have all that epoxy on there. Probably had to sand it down and ruin the tang down here. But I ended up running back and forth a bunch and drilling holes, and I got it all fixed up. Got it all epoxied in with extra epoxy so that when I sand it down, there's no gaps or anything. So I want to sand this, make it all smooth, make it look nice. Then I'm going to stain it, and we're going to clean the rest of the rust off this blade with some vinegar, or at least we're going to try. Then we'll sharpen both blades up and go out and test them.
Real quick, I'm going to put a new bevel on this $5 machete.
Okay, so I have this all sanded down. It looks pretty nice. Feels pretty nice. The only thing that's changing is I'm not doing anything here anymore. I just don't want to risk ruining anything, and I think it's going to be fine without it. This is really going to be more of a look at piece anyways, and if I like using a machete enough, I'll just get another nicer one that's not covered with historical value. So I need to get some white vinegar, and I'm going to soak it for about a minute to try to get all this rust off this blade. Then I will sharpen both of them up. I don't know if I showed. I got the bevel resanded on this, and that was just to take out most of the large nicks out, and then when I sharpen it, I will be taking the smaller nicks out, and then we'll see how sharp they are, and then we'll go test them in the woods. So part of the reason I'm doing this and not just sanding it or scrubbing it is I really want to leave that natural patina that's on here already. Again, I don't want to mess it up. I've already gotten some of the blade and the patina off with the sander, so I don't want to ruin anything. And I really don't want to put that pin in right now because I don't want to risk ruining the handle. So I'm just going to wait And if I use it a few times and it starts coming off, I can always put that pin in because I have the hole there, and it's not going to be any bother to refinish it or anything like that. I just don't want to risk ruining it, and I think it's fine without it. This is a mineral oil. I'm going to put it on the blades to help protect it so it doesn't rust anymore. The GI machete is not fitting in here to sharpen because the angle is too tight. So I'm going to have a sharpener, this one that's going to be the wider angle that will actually fit the blade and sharpen the blade as opposed to just taking metal off the side of the. The amount of snow we're getting in Ohio right now is kind of crazy. It's the beginning of December, and normally we might get a snow like this, but it doesn't stick around. And we've had below freezing temperatures for weeks now, and it doesn't look like it's going to slow down. So it's good weather for camping. I love camping in the snow as long as it's not like 0 degrees. I still will do it, but it's going to be great for the video later. So there's obviously a lot of stuff that I could do to just slightly improve this, but because it's a historical piece rather than a piece that's going to be used a lot, I'm just not going to. I want it to look nice. I want it to function if I need it, but there's obvious issues. This end of the blade here, this end of the blade still isn't super sharp. It'll obviously cut, but it's not razor sharp like the rest of the blade to about here. Um, the handle, again, I didn't put a pin here, but with the time I have and for the sake of getting this video out, I'm just doing what I can. And again, I can make improvements later on, but I want to get the video out. So we have the dark walnut stain because I want to keep this handle dark like it was originally. Even though it's not plastic, it'll have that dark wood look. So this is the Minwax dark walnut stain. Just going to put that on and let it dry before I go to church. And then hopefully once we get back, I can do the test video as long as it's dry enough to handle. Okay, so finally testing the machetes. A little bit of an update. It's been a week since I stained the handle. Stuff happened. I didn't get out to record. And so now I'm finally out. It's 11 degrees. I think I have everything I need, but it's cold. So we need to go out and start using the machetes. Build a little camp setup so I can cook my Frito pie, and then yeah, we'll get her done. All these branches keep trying to take the camera away. I don't know how thick the ice is, so I really don't want to. I want to go out on it, but I don't want to find out how thick it is the wrong way. I also don't want to slip off this bank here because it's a bit icy and snowy, and I'm not getting as much traction as I would want to. Thinking up there by the bank, there's a clear area, flat area. I think right here. Over here, maybe. Okay, so I moved a little bit because I'm only on 2/3 of an acre right now, and I can't get to the other side where there's Park District because I don't know if the ice is safe enough, and I don't really need to right now. So I moved back a little bit this way. I think this is a fine spot. I'm not feeling any wind. We're pretty low right now. We're in some flood area. It's not flooded right now, but it floods here, so it's pretty low. So I'm going to clear out this area of all the grass, and I'm going to get a fire going, start heating up my food, and then set up camp a little bit more, use my machete, both of them, see how it goes. Now I need firewood and to get my glove on because it's 11 degrees. It's not exactly too cold, but it's not warm. And what I'm looking for is stuff like this. So this dead branch that's on the tree, stuff like that is really great because it's not sitting in the snow. It's not, usually it can evaporate some of that stuff off in the sun, but you don't want to set it down in the snow because if it has any warmth or if the snow is wet at all, or if it gets covered in snow, then it'll get wet. First of all, what I've done is I have this 2x4 that I grabbed from the house that they're building up there where with the property that I'm on, because everything is very frozen, and if I have to use this, I don't want to go all the way back up there and get it. But I'm going to try to start a fire without having to use this because that's kind of cheating. But for today's video, it's, it's fine. So I need to find a bunch more standing dead stuff. Let's see if this one's dead. No. You can tell pretty easily if it bends pretty much at all, it's usually alive quite a bit. I think this one, yeah, it's cracking some, but I think it's still alive. So you just go around, look for stuff that looks dead. This one right here breaks off really easily. That's dead. So I'm going to go around my area and collect a bunch of that dead stuff and start a fire. So I found this, and a lot of these small pieces were sticking out of the snow that are on top. So those should be pretty dry, and the rest of it, I can brush the snow off, and that I can kind of melt the snow and dry out while I get the fire going. This whole trunk right here was pretty much completely out of the snow. There's some ice on it, but it should work really well. Okay, so I totally passed this by before. So essentially, if you look around, you can kind of see that there's this valley that we're in almost. And that's because when this river floods, which it often does, really in the spring, really badly, it'll go way high. And so what happens is you get these huge log jams that flow through here where the water's picking up all these big logs. And you can see these have all been cut actually. So they were cut and then, they were up higher and got washed down, or maybe they were in the river already and cut up and then they flew down further. But you get all sorts of sticks in here. So again, these are still kind of frozen, but I can break some of these off and they'll be less wet than the stuff that's just completely buried in the ground. And there's all sorts of sticks in there. And there's just huge piles all over this area. It's crazy what the water can do in such a short amount of time, because it'll rise and only be risen for a week after a heavy rain. But we'll definitely use this pile to get some of our thicker stuff, to get some coals going to cook our Frito pie. So it may seem odd to use the machete to do this, but it's a lot less wear and tear on your knee when you can just give it a quick whack with the machete to put a nice divot in it. And then you just, well, that was a bad example. This one's rotted. But even stuff like this, you can give it a few good whacks and then just break it apart really easily rather than having to push so hard on your knee. Because after doing that a bunch, it just really gets sore. This one's just way too rotted through. I just tried to cut it and the blade went almost halfway through in one swing. There's no way this is going to burn well. This one's kind of seeming pretty rotted too now that I have a closer look at it. We've got enough to get a fire started. There's plenty around here, so let's go ahead and do that. Gonna clear the ground really well with all my sticks right here. I'm gonna try to see if I can get this to catch a spark at all. Okay, I've got a new ferro rod, so I'm gonna scrape off some of this stuff. A big mistake that a lot of people make is they do a push method, which is that, and it can work, but the problem is, especially when you have a machete like this, you don't have a lot of space to move forward, and when you do, you're hitting stuff. It's just kind of uncomfortable. So especially with something bigger, you can plant your machete and do a pull method, which keeps all the sparks in a really specific spot, which is really good when you have only a small amount of tinder. This grass just keeps going out so quickly. Well, the machete's working well at least. There we go, there we go. No, wind, come on. I had a flame, I had wood burning, and the wind came and gusted it out. Well, I'm going to switch to this poop-covered 2x4 now, and a lighter, because I need to get cooking. I am definitely out of practice. This is kind of awful. I think using a machete that I haven't used before either is not great, but I can definitely tell I need to be back in the woods more. I'm just not going as much as I would like to, and it's definitely showing. Cheater's tools. Just lost a strike pad. Redundancies. Have to have them. If these work. Or if these don't work, I have a lighter too, so. Fire. Finally. While the fire's going, I want to monitor it, but I really want to see how thick this ice is, and there's a good spot to do it sort of safely, so I'm going to go over there and do that. while the fire's going and while it gets bigger and grows. So to be honest, I'm feeling a little discouraged because I feel like I'm never going to use these machetes all that often. It feels like I'm using them for a lot of stuff that I wouldn't normally use. Like I definitely just use a knife to strike the flint. That definitely made it harder. And I don't know how much I chop the wood. It's nice to not have to put all that pressure on your knees, but I think I would just use a hatchet or just use my feet instead of my knees. This is a honeysuckle tree, I think. Yeah, so they have these little red berries. Here's a bunch of them. Different tree right next to it. I'm pretty sure that's honeysuckle, which I got excited because there's a lot of them around here that I saw last year. And I was like, oh, sweet, berries. I love berries. And then I looked it up, and they're basically just a nature diarrhea pill. So, okay. Here's the ice. That's a thinner spot. There might actually be water right there, but it's pretty cold to be water. Even out in the center here, it's only like 4 feet deep, but still want to be very careful. Okay, nope, never mind. It's cracking all over the place and flexing all over the place. Let's try a different spot. I want to get out on the ice. Here we are, out on the ice. I really hope I don't break through and freeze my legs off because I'm not holding on to anything. But again, it's only a couple feet deep here, so it's not gonna be life-threatening. My car's a 2-minute walk away. But eventually, once this is completely frozen, a little bit further into winter, I want to do a little bit of a river walk, just see what I can find. This is all parkland, so once I can get over there, I'd like to explore that. The bunny tracks everywhere. You can see their little paw prints in this snow. You normally can't see that, but you can really well here. Some tracks over here. There's a bunch of tracks kind of in this area over here. There's more tracks on the other side of this spot that you can't see. Yeah, so eventually we're going to do a little bit of a river walk. And there's some other stuff planned. So if you want to see that, subscribe, leave a comment to help the algorithm. Share the video. We need views to get this channel going. Then I can do lots more stuff. There's some cool stuff planned. So, okay, so for lunch/dinner, we're making Frito pie, which, if you don't know, is it's a chili that you put on top of Fritos, and then you basically just top it with taco toppings. So I've got tomato, cheese, jalapenos, onions, and some lettuce somewhere. Some lettuce. But first we have to make the chili. Most of a can of chili beans. Crushed tomatoes. Chili seasoning. This is some ground venison that I have. So the reason I didn't use a life straw to drink some water after I melted it, or use the snow, I'm just trying to save time. And also this river, if I wanted to get water from this river, I could really bust through the ice if I wanted to. But it's a pretty nasty river. I've had people that I know that have eaten from it and gotten sick. And just all the farmland around here, all the pesticides just flow into this river, and it flows through the city too. Which it doesn't flow from the city here, but it flows into the city. So I just avoid it pretty much wherever I'm in the river. I don't eat anything from it. I don't drink anything from it. It's just pretty nasty. Okay, so I've got the World War II machete. Looking really nice, feeling really nice. Feels a lot better than the other one. But I'm gonna try just chopping up some larger pieces of wood. Then we'll find something smaller to get through. Um, I think it'll work well as a machete. I just don't see myself using it a lot around here. I feel myself trying to find things to do with it. Um, but I think there's just other tools that I would normally have that would be better. Got this log. It's sort of rotted, but it's still pretty hard. So we'll try it. Didn't work too well with this log, but there's all these dead ants inside this log, which is pretty strange. There's all over in there. I have something less rotten. That works beautifully. That's amazing. It's not wanting to stick into the very frozen log. Yeah, I mean, it's working great. This one's definitely a lot better. Better balanced, better weight, sharper, a lot better. I know this is not much of a camp, but it's comfortable and it's warm. The fire's kept me warm. Me moving around has kept me warm. Sorry, the smoke keeps getting in my face. But I'm getting really hungry. I want something warm. And then I'm probably gonna get out of here. That feels good. Well, it's nice and warm. Well, I think I'm gonna sit and watch the sunset. It won't quite set before I leave, but I want to sit and watch that while I eat my food and drink my hot chocolate. So I'm gonna do that, then we're gonna go. I almost forgot the most important part to the Frito pie. My hands are freezing. I can definitely feel it's getting cold. The sun's going down, so I'm losing a lot of my warmth. I'm gonna get rid of the fire, pack out what I can, come back, make sure the fire's out, and take the rest out. Then I'll be gone. You know, it's cold when every breath in, you just feel your nose hairs freeze. Ugh. I know I didn't test the machetes much, but it's just hard to find a use for them. I don't know if it's around here. I don't know if it's because I'm out of practice being in the woods, but I'm not finding a lot of use for them. They work great. They functioned really well, but just felt like I was really itching to find things to use them for that I didn't need to use them for. But I spent some time in the woods. I used some of my skills that I haven't used in a little while. Started a fire, cooked some good food, and the machetes look great. When I need to use them, they'll be great to use. So I just got back from the woods, and it was a lot of fun. I haven't done anything like that in a long time, and it felt really nice to be in the woods and just practice some bushcrafting skills. I think I found something out. I don't think I'm going to use machetes all that often. This was a very fun project, but I just don't see the practicality in my area. And especially in winter, like I just tested things, there's just not a lot growing. And even when there is in the summer, I don't think I'm going to use these all that much. They restored beautifully. I think this, especially being a historical piece, is going to be an amazing thing to have and show people. Again, I just don't know how much I'm going to use it unless I'm specifically going to a jungle. This one is definitely my choice. Obviously, a nice old machete that is a lot better balanced and has a better blade. It just performed a lot better. I'd pick this one any day over the $5 cheap machete that we have. There's also some nicks out of the blade now from using it, probably because it's frozen stuff that I was chopping. And then also, I think the bevel is too steep and it's just not a good machete, but it was just uncomfortable to use. But they performed really well. I was just having a hard time finding what I would actually need to use them for, especially in winter. Again, I think it was a bad time of year to test these. The only thing I wanted to do now was pair it with some of my other historical, non-historical items that I have. So we're going to do that because I think it'll be really cool looking. So staying on theme, so keep that on because it has my microphone. Staying on theme, I have this old made in 65 military United States coat. It's a nice wool coat. I got it from a friend because it didn't fit him anymore. It's very nice. It's a nice dress coat that I can wear. I'm not stealing anyone's valor. Just a nice coat. If I can get it on, maybe. I've got my machete, World War II machete, Vietnam era military dress coat, then for the coup de grace. The amount of history. This is actually not historical. It's a TSAS replica, but it looks really similar. It also has walnut wooden grips. It's also stamped with model 1911 A1 U.S. Army. So it's about as close as you can get without getting the actual thing. But it's a beautiful piece. It's got the wood, dark walnut handles, dark walnut stain. But these all feel really cool paired together. Hold on, I think. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Do all the things to boost this channel into the algorithm because we've got a lot of growth we need to do. There's also a lot more coming with amazing videos where we're going to go on fun adventures, eat amazing food, and do all sorts of stuff. There's also social media coming so you can have access to me more and our channel more. Thank you so much. See you in the next one.